Welcome back, baseball fans, to another edition of the Prep Baseball Report podcast here in North Carolina. I'm Brandon Hall. He's Matt Payne. Matt, another big weekend. How you doing, my man?
Another great weekend. Two talented events, and we got a lot to talk about.
No doubt. We're going to jump right in. And one of the things I wanted to do is guys are getting into their high school season and again, just trying to keep it, allow people to get to know us a little bit. Talk a little bit about that moment where you felt like you kind of, okay, I've made it. I'm there. Not necessarily made it in terms of professional baseball but just that first inkling that, okay, I belong with this club. Did you have one in high school or did you have one in college where you went, okay, I've got it now. I'm a little bit more under control and I have a feeling for what's going to happen next.
I think in high school, probably my sophomore year, we made the playoffs and pitched in a playoff game at Providence, and I think most people know the atmosphere that they create there. And you get there in that environment, and being a sophomore, we lost that game, but it kind of, hey, we made it. Now we know what it's like, and it gave us something to strive for in the years to come.
And you get that moment, you get that inkling, and everything kind of relaxes a little bit, and then you move forward. Did you have a moment in your junior or senior year where, or even as you got into college, where you got slapped back down to reality, and there was okay, I'm not quite there yet? Because I think with all the athletes we're watching, even our high level guys, there's going to come a point in pro baseball where they've made it when they're a top 5 percenter, but the climb is still so long to get to where they want to go.
My senior year in high school, we were undefeated through the regular season and ranked number one. And then we lost to a guy you coached, Aaron Bray, at Independence
Yep.
in the playoffs. And
Probably had his
that
brother Robbie on the mound because I think they threw him in every game that playoff season.
yeah, he definitely beat us. And but the excitement of that year being number one and having a lot of people out at games, and that was exciting. And then you get to college and you think you're good and you have all these dreams, and then you see the talent that's on the field, and the athleticism and the speed of the game, and you get humbled really quick, and it's kind of like being a freshman in high school again.
Yeah, when I was at Wilmington my freshman year, one of our fundraisers was we played a 100 inning game. I know there's still programs out there that do that, and I had no idea what a 100 inning game was or how we were going to get through 100 innings because God knows we were playing 7 innings with coaching and stopping and teaching and everything going on. It was taking us 3 hours to get through 7 innings. How are we going to do 100 innings? But as we got through the course of the day, people had pledged money, pizza's being delivered. We're playing off the machine. All the pitchers were going to throw a little bit. Well, as it got to be my turn to pitch, I'd had a good fall. I'd had that moment in high school where I felt like, okay, I can kind of handle everything that's going to be thrown at us. And even into my freshman year, I was handling just about everything being thrown at us. But that 100 inning game, my slot to pitch was when we were giving some of the position players, a lot of the position players, some downtime. So the guys I threw against the rest of the pitching staff. And I got absolutely lit up. Our pitchers hung like 9 runs on me. It was ridiculous. I was that guy that I was below hitting speed for college hitters. And so I could change up and I could move it and I could spin it and I could do all that stuff. But I was right at hitting speed for guys that probably shouldn't be hitting in college. And our pitchers were dialed in. And as soon as the first two guys hit ropes, then everybody was like a freaking parade. They were just charging to the plate. And so that was kind of my moment of, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into and do I belong? And the worst part of it was our last day of the fall. And so I had the entire fall, winter semester just to dwell on it. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I had a good coaching staff and they kind of talked me off the ledge there after a while. And, I'm going to be okay. And here's the things that you did positive and things like that. But, that moment kind of always comes back to humble you in this game. This game's really good for that of, you think you've got things figured out. Oh, here's something that shouldn't happen, but can happen any day of the week because the game of baseball is a great game. And it happened to me in that instance. So,
Those winter breaks can get really long after if you're a young kid, have a little bit of a rough fall, and you're trying to figure out what the coaching staff thinks of you, and be a long winter.
well, and we talked about it as coaches constantly. There wasn't a huge emphasis put on freshmen and how that fall went because everything they do is new. Now, the freshmen don't know that. But for the guys watching this show, that go get through it. That grind is important, but it's really your second and third semester, and heavily that third semester. Do they have the concepts down? Do they have the ability to work down? Do they understand what we're asking them to do? Do they kind of fit in with the brand of what our program needs to be? But it's that third semester. At the end of the third semester, you can basically go through your roster with guys that have been there for 3 semesters and be about 90, 95, 99% right on he's going to make it or he's not going to make it. He's going to be an All-American. He's going to be an all-conference guy. He's not going to play. He's going to start. That first semester, there's so much going on just outside the world of baseball. It's new for players. It's hard to judge them on the field sometimes.
Those older guys in the clubhouse can spot the fall All-Americans really fast, and you're a young kid. You see the guy, you're like, man, this guy's not that good, and then he ends up hitting 320 during the year, and it's like he didn't do anything in the fall. Well,
that's
they got it figured out that the fall is not the most important thing.
That's right. Yeah, and especially with the programs you're in, because you can really individualize what you're wanting to do. And with one guy, it may be very technical and on the field, and we need to make these adjustments. Whereas you've got another player that's sitting next to him in the locker room and next to him in the dugout, and 90% of what we're concentrating on is nutrition and weight room. And so he's showing up to practice every day freaking sore and can't move, and the coaches are like, "No, he's fine. He's fine." You're as a player going, man, I just held one of our starters. He's 0 for 15 against me in the fall. And all of a sudden you show up in the spring and that dude's lighting your ass up right out of the chute because now he's back in that normal training. He's back into playing mode. So, it can get on guys pretty quick. And Matt, as we transition, I think, this weekend we were in Kernersville. We're at Diamond Extreme, a great facility in that Kernersville with Paul Brannon, the owner, somebody we've known for a long time, a former standout high school player in the state of North Carolina. His son was our state player of the year last year and was a draft pick of the Red Sox. But using that facility at DXT and then getting to see the talent we saw this weekend. Let's start with just the facility itself. We're going to jump into this talent, a lot of which will be having some of those college issues you and I were talking about coming up in the years to come. But let's start with the facility itself and just how nice it is, how clean it is, and what it allows us to do.
It's a huge facility. Got the full-size infield. Hitters got to love it because they can see the ball fly. But also there's, 4 or 5 cages over to the side and an upstairs area. And we love going there. And, we got done late Saturday night, and then we sat in there and talked with Paul till 11:30 midnight, just talking baseball, and great time.
No, and they've got a really good feel for what they're doing, and they have a lot of different types of athletes coming through there. They've got some different setups in terms of strength training and movement training, baseball and softball. But the biggest thing that kind of sets them apart is that big infield, a little bit similar to Next Level, but the ability to kind of do team defense in there, to do fungos and allow guys to stretch their arms out a little bit, and really for us allows us to get a lot of metrics on players that in North Carolina we just don't have facilities that are similar to that, allowing us. There's some great places to go hit and great places to go throw, but that team idea and really infield work and some of the movement and running, like you'll see with running our 30s, that facility is just great for.
Yeah, it allows us to run a lot of kids through, and in a short amount of time with the events we run, and we always love being there.
Well, let's dive into the Preseason All-State Central, our biggest preseason event of the year. And a lot of that had to do with the calendar and then also the facility. The facility can handle bigger numbers, but the calendar, it being a couple days away from tryout, every player in the state is really kind of dialed up and ready to roll this past weekend as they get ready into spring practice this week, getting ready for our spring seasons. Let's start with some of the position players. You had a chance to bear down on those guys going through their defensive work, going through their BP. I know you had 3 guys. We could do 4 hours on this show today if we wanted to, because it was that good an event. But 3 guys you definitely wanted to talk about. One, Wilmer Martinez is from that area. A guy we've seen in a high school season, a guy we'd seen last year at this event. And what did you see from Wilmer?
He started switch hitting in the last year. Natural right-handed hitter. He jumps in left-handed early, and you're kind of wondering, can he do it? Can he not do it? And it looked really good for a young guy doing it. And it's balanced. He's got some barrel feel, and we know he can play defense. He shows such comfort on the infield, and I like how he goes about his business too. He's good mood, enjoys playing baseball. Just
No doubt.
would be
Yeah.
a good teammate, and I thought he had a really good night.
Well, it's easy to work out around those guys that come in with a smile. And he's a 5'10", 165-pound middle infielder in the 2025 class. Ledford High School, plays with the 5-star group. And it's a kind of a star-studded Ledford 5-star group that he's a part of, and he seems to be kind of a glue guy. He's that guy that you want to be around. He's that guy that at 8 a.m. he's going to be enjoyable around the park. He's that guy that at 10 o'clock at night is still getting, trying to get his swings off. And, just like you said, he was fun to be around for us for that day because of his joy of being on the field.
No doubt.
Who is your next guy? I know we're going to stay on the infield, maybe a Charlotte Christian night there as we're going through some of the guys that just stood out for you.
Yeah, Matt McKnight from Charlotte Christian. Like his body, he's got some length in the body. I like the tall middle infield guys. And when he takes BP, I know we got TrackMan set up, and a lot of guys are just trying to post the highest number possible. But he gets in there and he has a mature approach. Early he's just trying to get the barrel on the ball, stays through the middle of the field, and he just line balls to both sides of the field, and above average defensive actions as well.
And he's a baby face. I mean, he's long and lanky, 6'3", 175 in the 2025 class. Scheduled to play with the Richmond Braves, who've kind of done a good job of IDing players up and down the Mid-Atlantic. And I'm interested. Long arms, but the swing was flat and direct. I think he has a chance to handle velocity. And then also with that frame, where do you kind of see him defensively? Is he a guy that you think has a chance to play short? Or is it going to be having to make a move at some point?
I think you touched on it right there. He's so baby faced that he hasn't grew into his body yet, and I think as he gets stronger, he'll add quickness, and if he develops the foot speed, he has the hands and arms, I think, to stay at shortstop. If not, you could see that frame putting on weight and going to a corner.
Another name you gave me as we were getting ready to do the show, Bryant Kimbrell. Bryant's a little different body type. He's a physically mature young man, 6'2", 215 in the 2024 class. Now at Pinecrest High School. Pinecrest got a chance to be really good again this spring. Plays with C35. We've seen Bryant a couple different times with scout days. With this event again last year, our top prospect games. What'd you like about Bryant in the box and on the field?
I think seeing Brian in the past, he's swung the bat well, but you always wonder, he's thicker build. Is he just a guy that can hit? He's right-handed hitter, so does he have a position? Where does he fit? And he shows up at the Central, and the first thing I noticed was when he was taking ground balls, it was more flexibility. The hands look softer, the actions look better, and then in the box, I think he goes 103 off the bat, and it's a controlled swing too, without a ton of effort.
I'm bouncing around a lot during the position players stuff, so I don't get a chance just to bear down on the hitters, and that's kind of where you situate yourself, and you're bearing down on them as infielders and things like that. So I'm bouncing around. There's a lot of things that I kind of miss as we're handling some of the Swift testing we do. Just some of the getting to know kids and being around them as they're getting loose and getting ready to get in the cages. But just three names real quick that kind of stood out for me. Jason Andrews, as I lose his page real quick, but Jason Andrews is at Combine, 2026, 6'2", 275-pounder, plays with USA Prime. Another one was Wyatt Lytle. I think I'm saying that right. A Middle Creek catcher in the 2026 class. South Charlotte Panthers. And again, a guy that we've seen even since he was a junior future games guy with us. And then finally, Seth Tickle. Seth's a dual guy, threw a bullpen there early, and then was impressive once he got in the box as a physical 5'11", 185-pound third baseman, 2025 class, plays with the Dirtbags organization and at Rocky Mount Academy. with those three guys, Matt, anything in particular that stood out about any of those three that I kind of laid my eyes on and kind of marked as guys to follow?
Tickle's a physical kid, and he put up good numbers in the past, and he's obviously been working. The numbers got better at this event. He's got arm strength across the infield. He pitched well. The thing with Lytle is, his ability to receive, and I thought we had some good receiving catchers there. I know,
Yep.
Mooring received well, Houston Gorham
Yep.
received well, but to be at 2026 at Middle Creek, and they're going to have a good club this spring. I think he has a chance to make an impact as a freshman there.
It's a good point, and he's not going to be put in a position where he has to do everything. But there may come a point in the season where his ability to receive may elevate that pitching staff that's already got a chance to be very good. So, again, and we haven't touched on it a ton because we've got so many other things to talk about. But our national rankings came out on Monday. Our regional rankings for teams in the Mid-Atlantic came out on Monday as well. Our Power 25 is going to be coming out soon for North Carolina. I don't know that North Carolina has one team that's going to necessarily jump out and say we're a national program this year, but I wouldn't be shocked if in about a month to 2 months somebody's playing really well and starts climbing into those areas to be a highly ranked regional team and then pushing that top 25 nationally too.
Yeah, the high school talent's deep here, and I think sometimes it's hard for us to get on a national level high school wise because the high schools aren't as big and the talent's split up, but it definitely makes for parity within the state.
No doubt, no doubt, and it creates a lot of interesting talk and a lot of interesting conversation as we get into the playoff system. And last year kind of played true to form, especially with Randleman and Providence being so dominant throughout the year. But inevitably, we're going to have a dominant team this year. Somebody's going to go 24-2 and lose in the first two rounds, just because that's what North Carolina does. Because you're going to run into an arm and in a one and done situation, a really good club can get knocked out way too early. So I'm excited for it all to get started. But let's continue with the preseason All-State guys. Matt, let's take a look at some of the pitchers. And we were able to run with the size of Diamond Extreme. We were able to run, two guys getting loose, two guys going live. Plenty of room for those guys to get all their metrics, for all of our cameras to fit on them. And really, they were close enough, too, where we could almost see just about every pitch everybody threw. So I know you and I were kind of crisscrossing back and forth, putting evals on guys. But give me a couple names of guys that stood out for you as you were watching those bullpens.
Chase Kiker, we saw him at the end of the summer last year. He was, fatigued a little bit, long summer. He shows up, he's mid 80s, but the thing that jumped for me was his spin. I think fastball spin was 2400. Breaking ball spin was in that 2500 range, and it was in the zone.
Yeah, and it's an aggressive intent in terms of what he's trying to do. There's not a whole lot of deception or a whole lot of trying to baby things across the zone. Everything he's trying to do is with arm speed and intent. And yeah, he's already spinning the baseball. It was up to 86, like you said. Average spin rate on the fastball 23.77. Average spin rate on the breaking ball 24.47. And so there's some depth there already. It'll be interesting to see size-wise where he kind of ends up. I think he's a little bit more mature than some of the other 2026s, but he's still a 2026. 5'11", 171. Metro Atlantic Christian here, hometown games for me, so I get to go chase him down at some point. Make a 5-mile drive instead of a couple 100 miles, kind of trying to cover the state. And he plays with the dirt bags, but definitely an exciting arm to follow. Who else did you have, Matt?
Matt Lefevre from Hickory. Saw him in high school. The thing that stood out for me was his ability to move the ball around the zone and confident presence on the mound, and love the body. It's 6'2", 6'3".
A little better, 6'4" is what he's listed at, yeah.
6'4", yeah. And he's getting thicker, getting stronger, but his velocity continues to jump, and excited to see him throw during the high school season.
6'4", 205, was up to 87. Strike thrower. That's the thing that stands out, is both times that I've seen him at our events, with his top underclass games and in Preseason All-State Central, is his ability with that big body to create direction and then to repeat over and over and over. And it's not elite command yet, but he's throwing a ton of strikes. And so I think he's going to be able to get away with some things as he continues to mature and as he continues to learn his arsenal. just because he's around the zone so much. And the fastball's got a chance to beat average to slightly above average bats just with velocity. The last name that you gave me that you kind of wanted to follow, as again, I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping my spots here. Was it Julian Areola?
Yeah, Julian Ariola. We saw him a year or two ago at a scout day, and he had arm strength, a little bit thicker build, and you kind of wondered, how much was left in the tank. And the first thing I noticed about him was the body's leaned up. He looked more athletic over the rubber, and um, up to 88, I believe, and he'll give the Burlington School another good arm to run out this year.
Yeah, and he's a guy from reports and from what I'd heard and talking to some people around that area, he's a guy that's really worked hard in the last year. 5'10", 190, 2024, like you said, at the Burlington School. Fastball ran up to 88, sat in that 85, 87 range. Breaking ball spin average 2320, slider spin average 2430. So there's some feel for spinning the baseball. He didn't command the spin, but the ball had sharp, tight tilt to it. So I think that's more of a January issue than it is a command or control issue. As your spinning balls that tight, especially when you made a velocity jump, it's going to take some reps to kind of get through there. So before we go to mine, I just want to point out, the dirt bags got to give you a little kickback. That's 3 dirt bags right there. I know you didn't look through and say, okay, which travel team did these guys go to? But again, it's some of those guys are have the ability to kind of get over there with Andy and with Trey and get into their facility, and they're getting some feedback. I know they have good pitching minds that are over there helping some of those guys too. So it's 3 guys not only that just perform well for us, but it's 3 guys that we've seen that have gotten better over the last year. And I think, when we're looking at especially January bullpens, but we're looking at, 24s, 25s, 26s, coming up 27s, a couple years 28s. It's not just what are they now, it's what were they, what are they, and then what will they be. And I think all 3 names you gave me will be intriguing to follow. And I'm hoping my 3 names kind of fit in that too. And my first one is actually one of near your hometown, William Everett. Have you seen much of William prior to this event?
I have not.
He was
St.
a
Stephen's.
standout name for me. It wasn't typically. I don't get surprised. St. Stephen's High School, right there in Hickory, 6 foot 160 in the 2024 class. And the fastball, it's kind of an abbreviated delivery. So let's start there. It's a slender body, thin. I think he's going to put on some strength as he continues to get older, just some of that man matureness type stuff. But the lower leg kick, quick whippy arm, and the fastball was up to 88 and sitting in that 84, 87 range, and it had some life to the arm side. But the thing that was a separator for him really was his ability to spin the breaking ball. It was tight, it was hard, it was down, and the catcher that, and we're not going to call him out, but he was beating him up. I mean, just you don't want to call it abuse, but it was abuse. 10-4 tilt, late, spinning it almost 2,400 on average, 72, 74. That breaking ball is an out pitch.
Yeah, he's been on the JV team the last couple of years. St. Stephen's has had some older arms, and a name we kept hearing. And I know he trains hard, and we've heard the velocity's been good. But it was good to see him in person, and it'll be good to see him again during the high school season.
And he'll have a chance. They do a good job there at St. Stephen's, kind of developing some arms. They've had some guys come through there, and so I think he'll have a chance to continue to grow into what he's got a chance to be under their staff and under what they're trying to do. The next name that intrigued me, and we're going to talk about 2 guys from this high school today, is my bet when we get through this, but is Gavin Turner. And we saw one from Cary. We saw a freshman from Cary last week when we were talking about the event in Greenville. And the name has just slipped my mind. I had it written down earlier.
William Vetter.
There you go, Vetter. And so Vetter was extremely intriguing. We talked about him on last week's podcast. Gavin Turner's a guy we've seen. I think we saw him maybe at this event last year. 6'2", 185, solid athletic build, broad shoulders, Continue, still looks like he's a baby face, can continue to put on some weight. Um, and then in the bullpen, he just kind of fills it up. He kind of goes about his business and just does what he does. And the fastball was, anywhere from 85 to 87, but he touched an 8. He's throwing strikes with his breaking ball, 71, 72, spinning at 23.05. He's throwing strikes with a slider at 72, 75, spinning at 25.44. So you're starting to see, that maturation process. Here's a strike thrower that from my notes, maybe the stuff wasn't there 3 years ago. Maybe the stuff wasn't there, but he was a strike thrower. He had learned to pitch. He had learned how to attack hitters with what he's got. And now all of a sudden the stuff's coming. The velocity's starting to jump. The spin's starting to peak. But he's already got feel. He's already got an identity on how he wants to attack hitters. And now the stuff's going to allow him to make mistakes. And so I think he's got a very, very bright year ahead of him. The other part is I don't think he has to be the guy at carry because Vetter's going to be good. Still a freshman. Vetter's going to be good. And then we're going to talk about the bullpen Collins Black threw in a pro case, I'm sure, as we get into that event. So, again, Gavin Turner is definitely a name to follow and watch.
He's an athletic kid, too. He swings the bat well, good actions on the infield. So,
yep.
He's a good two-way player.
The last name I had was a little bit wasn't a name that I had heard a ton about. I had a couple notes. He's at North Davidson High School. He plays again with the Dirtbags. 6'1", 200, 2024, Braden Hill. Braden possessed the best fastball at the event, peaking 91.4, I think. It's kind of a burly, strong build. The delivery is set to be very direct, very level. The arm action's clean. It's long. It's over the top. There's intent. There's aggressiveness through his line. My initial reaction was as I'm watching him, and we all make these kind of snap judgments in short bullpens, was, okay, relief profile, big arm. But as you're really watching him, he threw a changeup around the zone. He threw a breaking ball around the zone. He showed really good feel for his slider. Slider at 23.12 spinning was up to 77. So not only is it a big arm, bumping 92, but he's got feel for 3. He's going to be athletic enough. And I think he's got a chance, obviously, as he continues to move on. He's still got years to kind of grow and mature and figure out everything that has to happen on the mound. But he's got a good start just with the way that arm was working. Did you get a chance to see him at all?
I did. He threw towards the back end of the pitchers, and there'd been a ton of guys, 84, 87, 88-ish. And he's throwing it like, man, that looks hard. It's probably 88, 89. And then you walk over and ask the guy doing the track, man, he's like, no, that's 91.
Yeah.
And
that's why I told you I had to readjust my grade on him because I'm not watching velocity pop up on the apps and pop up on the guns when I'm watching these bullpens. I'm kind of eyeballing it, and I just put a grade, a 1 to 5 type grade on velocity, and I missed his grade by probably almost a full point. Just because it wasn't a ton of effort. And it was the arm had some quickness, and then the ball is just electric out of the hand. So that's the type guy when you're missing the grade like that, that fastball may play up on a hitter. So even though it's 92, you may still see more swings and misses than you normally expect, just because of the way the ball is getting out of the hand and kind of surprisingly jumping on hitters.
Yeah, and that's one thing about evaluating is we do most of it. We're not seeing the numbers in hand. We're going off the eyes and the body and the athleticism. Right. So it's nice when you go back and check the numbers and you get to juice a guy up a little bit.
No doubt. One of the things that's unique about these preseason all-state events is we do get a handful of committed guys to show up because they want to see where their numbers stack up. They want to see how they stack up against some of the other players in the state. And we were fortunate. We did have a handful of committed guys at this event. And Matt, I'm going to give you 2. Give me 2 names that kind of popped out at you that are committed and off the board already, but maybe still popped a little bit as you were watching them.
First time seeing Logan D'Amico, committed, Wake Forest, I believe, and
yes,
he threw, and watching him throw it, I'm like, okay, he's pitcher first, quick arm, little slinger type, and I like that. And then you watch him take BP, and you're like, no, the kid can hit too. I see
Right.
why they like him as a hitter. And another guy, Jackson Matthews, Clemson commit. The left-handed hitters hit early, and look over and you see somebody crushing the ball, and you're like, man, this kid's a freshman, and bat speed and strength, and really good seeing him in person for the first time as well.
Jackson's 6'3", 180, and it's a young frame. He may still be growing. A 10 tough, plays with the Canes National, and like you said, it wasn't just one exit velocity off that, which was 95.9, which for a freshman is advanced. But it was the fact that he carried above a 90-mile-an-hour exit velocity throughout both rounds of BP. So it wasn't just one ball off the bat. It was every ball off the bat. Bang, bang, bang. Really showing an ability and a feel for the barrel and some strength through contact. And he was also 90 from the outfield. And he ran a sub 430, with a 19.1 run speed max. So good athlete, good frame, good barrel awareness, good hand-eye coordination, and still very, very young. Clemson got a really, really good one there.
They did, and maybe we should have considered Huff a little more for the regional rankings. You start going through some of the names there.
There will be some teams that will have that up as bulletin board material that we don't have them. So, but I think it's going to be an interesting year because of that. You do have a lot of younger players like D'Amico and like Matthews that have a chance to play a role, very significant role in terms of where their high school teams land this year. And trying to project out where a freshman arm is going to compete against seniors, that's hard to do. But we're going to know within the first 2 to 3 weeks, okay, we were light on this club and we're heavy on this club. But again, one game scenario towards the end, it can be a matchup. Who's on the bump? My senior versus your freshman. Let's tee it up and see who gets it.
For sure.
You went freshman on us with guys that popped in commitments. So I'm going to go a little bit older. Obviously not a ton of the senior commits were there as we've got our pro case the next day. But we did have a 2025 third baseman from Ledford, Kelvin Paulino Jr., a University of Miami commit. And Paulino's 6'1", 185. Again, really enjoy being around him, really enjoys being around the game. Shows good actions, a firm across the infield with accuracy. The swing has got a chance to produce a ton of doubles and more as he continues to add strength. There's natural loft. He's finishing with two hands right now, which I'll be interested to see if that's kind of an off-season deal that he's going through, and as he gets to face live pitching, if he's a little bit looser with the way he finishes. But there was no denying how hard the impact was at contact.
Yeah, I like how he can drive the ball to that right center gap. He's not pull happy. He'll use the whole field, and it's easy to notice when he takes batting practice.
The other one I wanted to mention, and he actually also attended our pro case, so he was there with us both Saturday and Sunday, was Davin Whitaker. And Davin, it had been a couple years since we had Davin at an event. East Carolina commit in the 2023 class, outfielder, 6'4", 195. And the 6'4", 195, he's bigger than the last time we saw him. He's significantly bigger than the last time we saw him. And it's strong. There's strength, defined strength in the lower half. He's hitting with a wide base, strong hands, direct. Sometimes those guys get in a wide base and their hands can start to get away from a little bit. The upper body can get rotational. He sits into his legs a little bit, was very direct. He was one of my winners from the preseason All-State. We had heard good things. That's why he got the pro case invitation. But watching the preseason All-State, I was like, okay, yeah, definitely he needs to be there tomorrow. And then he shows up the next day, and it kind of leads us into our pro case. And Matt, we had 22 of the top 23 and 24 graduates in the state at DXT. We had, I think, right at 20 Major League Scouts or pro scouts there. One of the events you and I both really, really look forward to, and kind of Davin lead us into that event. Talk about the event a little bit, and then I know Davin was one of your picks that clicked from the pro case. But what in general, talk about the pro case and just our excitement for that day and what you're looking forward to when we get to that Sunday.
Yeah, really good turnout from the pro scouts again this year, and it's good to see those guys again after the winter. Haven't seen them in a while, and kind of get an idea of what their spring looks like a little bit with college baseball starting and the D1s kicking off this weekend. And we'd seen Whitaker in the past, and like you said, he's definitely got bigger, and he put up good numbers, and to me he's still really raw. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that he can clean up that'll only make him better. But to be able to put up the numbers that he does right now, I think that makes him intriguing for those guys. And he's athletic enough; he can make adjustments, and he's getting better defensively. And left-handed hitter with some juice and that frame. You can dream on that frame for days.
No doubt. The exit velocity was up to 97. I don't know which day that was, but it was coming out. And you had mentioned him as as we're kind of going through the pre-shows, one of the 2023s that really jumped out at you, and a guy that may have improved his stock. You got another position player for us that may be in that same boat, somebody that's made some progress that you liked what you saw from the workout on Sunday?
Yeah, I really like Nick Parham, and we've seen him a lot. He went to future games with us, but the way he goes about his business with all those eyes on him, it's the same as if he's at an event with no college coaches, no pro scouts there. He just looks so comfortable, and he gets in the box, and it's first time off the BP guy, and first round, he doesn't quite center a couple up, and then the end of that first round, he's getting it on the barrel, and then first swing of round two, I think he drives it into the blue tarp behind the pitcher, and
Yeah.
we know he can play defense, but I just love how he goes about his business.
The thing for me with Nick is I don't know that his game is designed for that showcase. And we've talked about this before. There's guys that are going to show up and they're showcase All-Americans and they're going to put up all these numbers, but it doesn't translate into the game. Then you have guys that are like Nick, where they show up to the showcase and they can blend a little bit. He's 6', 178. He's not the biggest guy there. He wasn't the fastest guy there. His exit velocity is not going to be the highest there. But when you start taking in the totality of what happened on that day, it's like you said, he battled through a couple of missed hits and then just lit it up in the second round. He's so steady defensively. He just does everything with kind of a professionalism about him. Again, East Carolina commit, TC Roberson, Southern Athletics was his club team. There'll be guys in the seam. I think he's probably going to get to East Carolina, but we've seen a couple guys get to East Carolina in the last couple years. Alec Burleson, who's my guy from East Forsyth. Was East Forsyth that's with the Orioles?
Norby.
Yeah, Connor Norby.
Norby.
Yep. The same type of guy. I don't know that either of those guys light it up in high school in a showcase environment because of the way they play. They fit in really quickly at a high-level program and have a chance to continue to get better. And then all of a sudden their man strength sets in when they're 23, 24. And now, the projection is he's got a chance to be a big leaguer. Is Nick's ceiling that high? It could be, and we'll find out. But he reminds me a little bit of those two guys when they were coming through.
And when you can catch the baseball like that in the middle, you definitely have a chance to get on the field in college early. And, that leads into the developmental process of getting that experience early and helping you develop to when you are 21, 22, 23 years old.
Right. Well, my pick to click in the 23 class offensively or defensively was Isaac Armstrong. Again, another East Carolina commit. I know he's one of your favorites. He's a guy you've been on for really about the last 2 years. 6', 180, 2023 class. Like I said, East Lincoln High School, South Charlotte Panthers. And Isaac's he's very athletic. And that athleticism is starting to showcase more and more and more into what's going on. He had a ball leave the bat. And again, I'm pulling the stats. I'm pretty sure this is from the event on Sunday. Yep, 212. Yep. 99.8 with wood, max exit velocity, 400-foot distance. So it's not just that he's got strength at contact. There's leverage. There's enough lift. and he's driving baseballs with authority, and they're taking off the bat along with that exit velocity. And then he ran a 3.83. He showed arm strength across the infield at 91. So the metrics are starting to line up, but I know you've seen him play and like the game play as well.
Yeah, he plays well in game. Always been able to get the barrel on the ball, and he really drove some balls in BP on Sunday. And he's another guy that's got noticeably stronger since last year.
And again, this was an event that with 20 players there, we're still trying to sift through, and we're going to have a bunch of kind of video clips heading out probably as we're filming this on Tuesday, probably heading out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and start to give some love to some of the guys there. And we could spend 3 hours on just that one event. We're having to kind of give you some of the things that popped, just because we don't have enough time. We got other things we've got to get done too. So let's shift to the pitchers. Let's stay in the 23 class. Was there an arm that kind of popped for you out of that 23 class as you're watching the bullpens that started the ProCase?
Cooper Clark. He threw for us there last year, and really skinny kid last year. Not a lot of effort, but the ball came out of his hand good. And then he shows up this year, and the first thing I noticed was that frame's got thicker. And I thought he threw really, really well in his session on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a physical body now. And I love the description. He was thin last year, and he really has. There's defined muscular features throughout. 6'4", 195. He's a homeschool student, so he plays with the Wake County Warriors, Tri-State Arsenal throughout the summer, and then up to 91, 24-11 average spin rate on the fastball. And then he showed feel for a changeup. I actually like this changeup a little bit over his breaking ball. Campbell commit, and Campbell's made some noise with these types of guys in the past. I think he has a chance to kind of be that next guy that, with what they've done developing some of their arms, that could be 3 years down the line, somebody we're really rolling in there heavy to see. Is he a top 200 player in the country, a top 100 player in the country? Just because of the frame and the way the arm works. These are the guys that Campbell's done a really good job with over the last 4, 5, 6 years.
Yes, they have, and there's not a lot of effort in there, and he definitely has a chance to make jumps on down the road.
Well, my pick to click in the pitchers was a young man that we saw at our top prospect games. Obviously, we've known about him for a long time because he played with Zach Borowski, who helps us, as well as being a scout in the area now. H.L. Smith. HL's committed to Chapel Hill, Fuquay-Varina, Tri-State Arsenal. 6'6", 200 pounds. He looks like he's 6'6", 130 pounds, and he actually looks like he's gotten bigger since the last time we saw him. We do know that he has a lot of things off the field that he does, helping his family and things of that sort, and so he's kind of got his hand in a lot of different buckets and hasn't been able just to be all in on baseball. He also plays basketball, so he's in the middle of basketball season as he's throwing his pin for us. So my expectations probably were a little light on what HL was going to be. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see where he's at. But my expectations were, with everything he's got going on, we may not see where he's truly going to be this spring. And then he shows up, and his first couple pitches, he's going 88, 89, 88, 89, dotting the arm side, showing an ability to get in, and then spinning a hard breaking ball at 24-31. That was the pitch that's gotten better. There's still command of fastball. There's still command of change. The changeup still has some fade, but the breaking ball has significantly dialed up. There's more intent. There's more arm speed. There's more tilt. That was the one that has a chance to play immediately. And so you pair that with his size, with where the body has a chance to be in 2 years as he gets on a nutrition program and into a weight system. And I think there's going to be pro interest this year. Especially if he can duplicate what he did for us early in the spring, allowing pro scouts to dream a little bit and say, okay, here's where he is now. Where is he going to be in 2 years? Is it going to cost us a lot more money in 2 years if we go get him right now? If I was a betting man, I would bet he ends up at Chapel Hill, just because there is going to be, some projection that guys are going to have to do on him. But, he skyrocketed for me in terms of a guy of where he's at and where he has a chance to be in 3 years. He skyrocketed up that list just with that bullpen yesterday.
Yeah, maybe the biggest jump of any arm in that 2023 class, and we've seen him before. And uh, to me, he's more athletic on the mound than what he has been in the past. And you said he plays basketball and does a lot of other things, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens when he's baseball only for a while.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he's a guy that really within our rankings and what we talk about and where his current number is and where his projectable number is, there's been some distance there for a while. And when we're trying to do our rankings, you're trying to play with that. Okay, early on that distance is fine. As you get to be a junior and into your senior year, really you should be closing that distance. We should see it. Now, there's reasons why it doesn't happen for every player. And knowing HL a little bit, we were still able to say, I still think he's going to get to that. But seeing him take that jump and us saying, okay, boy, there's still room to what the ceiling is. It was exciting. And I was extremely excited for him because I know he's been working at it. And, it puts Fuquay into a position where they may be able to have a legitimate ace they can ride out and kind of continue that mystique and that aura of what they've been over the last 5, 6, 7 years when they roll into places because they still have that dude that's on the front end of the mound too. So again, another team that may not be extremely happy with where we've got them placed early in the Power 25. But those emails can go to Matt Payne at prepbaseballreport.com. So the 24 class was well represented at the ProCase as well. And one of the reasons we do this with the 24 class, the pro scouts that attend have to put together the East Coast Pro Showcase, which is their big event on the East Coast. On the West Coast, it's the area code games. But there are scouts in our area who handpick the team that represents Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. And so part of the ProCase is us saying, because those guys have not started, a lot of them on the 20. They just finished the 22 draft a couple months ago. So we're just giving them a taste. We want them to say, hey, here's some of the better 24s in the area that you at least need to be aware of. You're going to run into some others. You're tracking the 23s this year. And then we'll help them as they're putting together their list for their East Coast Pro workout. And then ultimately, they'll select the East Coast Pro team. But the 24s, let's start with position player, Matt. Who was your 2024 that stood out and kind of took that jump in your eyes? Or maybe a guy that you haven't seen a ton of that lived up to the billing?
Perry Hargett. Haven't seen a ton of him. Name kind of blew up last summer, played well at some big events. And one thing that jumped for me was his hand strength in the box. I mean, he really drove some balls to his pull side and has arm strength, ran well, and athletic kid who he didn't disappoint in my first look at him this year.
Yeah, and he's a home game for me. He plays at Metrolite Christian, which we mentioned earlier in the podcast. He's a dirtbag, 6 foot, 187. I saw him last year, but I think when I saw him, he was hurt, and I didn't know that. I saw him, went back in there to watch Metrolina, and he wasn't playing. And then I had heard that he had been hurt, and I didn't put two and two together. But the guy I saw was not the guy that was out there this summer. And so, and again, it's part of evaluation. That's why we're not going to just put one evaluation on guys. So for me, the guy I saw in this workout was completely different than the guy I saw in the gameplay last spring. And it was an extremely mature approach. I love his stance, the way he's in his legs. His load is simple. I like his bat angle in the pre-setup. And then it's direct, and there is a ton of hand strength. Like you were saying, he's directing the barrel where he wants it to go. There's quickness, there's arm strength. So he's a guy that's tooled up. I mean, it's 98.9 off the bat, 92.1 average exit velocity. He ran a sub 430. He was 93 across the infield. So in terms of checking boxes, he checks all of them. And now the trick is, how high does that prospect have a chance to be? It's going to be in gameplay. Can he handle velocity? Can he handle spin? Can he play it short? Can he stick it short? And those are the things that are going to continue to kind of propel him up. So I'm interested where he's going to be. And again, a North Carolina commit. North Carolina's done, a good job in the state traditionally, and they've got, maybe one of the best 24s to come through in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's a 2024 bat to like a lot.
No doubt. Yeah. And he's got a chance to do damage every time he steps up there. So let's stay with you, and I'll let you do your pitcher as well. And I think I know where you're going with this one. And I know we may have mentioned the high school earlier. who was your kind of pick to click in the 24 class of the arms we saw?
Yeah, back to Cary High School and Collins Black. Um, been a while since I'd seen him. We'd heard the velocity got better, and 93.3 in his bullpen. But also, I know you talked about it when we were there on Sunday. The body's moving better, the arm action's more athletic, and he really impressed me on Sunday.
6'2", 205. We saw him way back when with our first junior futures team, and there was some restriction in the arm when he was entering high school. The body was lanky, but he was like a baby giraffe, so we really didn't know if he was going to be a good mover, an efficient mover. We both have seen him a little bit since then, and boy, he was extremely impressive. The fastball was the best fastball I think we saw on the day at 93.3, 25-20 spin rate, slider at 25-64, spin rate at 81. I mean, he really was dominating the baseball with hand strength, finger strength through release. He wasn't spraying it. It wasn't command, but there was some control. He showed feel of the strike zone. But I think with the jumps he's made with his stuff right now, he just needs to sit middle of the plate, and misses are still strikes. And then as he kind of gets dialed into what his body's really doing pitch after pitch after pitch, then he's going to have a really good chance to start dominating certain portions of the zone, whether it be to his glove side or his arm side, whether it be the top of the zone or the bottom of the zone. But the arm, that was a big time arm. So I think you're dead right on that 24 pick to click. My pitcher was a guy that I put a similar grade on, but it's a guy we've seen. He's a guy that we've seen even recently. We saw him at our future games this past year. Cameron Seagraves, Richmond Senior High School, 6'2", 165, plays with the C35 club. And again, with Cameron, it's a different body type than Collins. Collins has got some strength and some broad shoulders already. Cameron's kind of like a little straight line, lanky, long-limbed arm, but he really controls his line, really controls his center of gravity well over the rubber, very direct with where he's going, and then it's explosive whip versus more. I thought Collins was there was good arm strength or arm speed, but it was a lot of arm strength too. Cameron was 88-92. Some sink to the fastball, some arm side run, curveball, slider, and changeup in the zone. He is attacking the arm side. He attacked the glove side, so there's a little bit more polish in terms of what he's doing, controlling the zone. The stuff doesn't pop quite like Collins does, but there's more pitchability to it right now. So, and again, it's a guy that we saw in August. It's taken a big jump. If you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing him at the state games last year, and he didn't have the best outing, and the velocity was down, and we were trying to put the future games team together, and I was probably a little unsure on it, because of how he just threw there, and you're like, no, he's definite for me. Like, you had no doubt about it, and he goes to Atlanta and has a great outing, and
Yeah.
he keeps getting better.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those bodies and the frames will be interesting to, does that whip stay there, or is there more strength coming? It's going to allow, the arm speed to stay where it is, and then arm strength's going to take over and just mass. One of shooter's favorite, mass equals gas. As he adds 30, 40 pounds, does 92 become 96? Or is he a guy that kind of stays thin and really has to rely on that whip? So he's going to be an interesting follow from that standpoint, but I think, teams that face him this spring, had better gear it up because it's not just stuff. I think he has a good feel for pitchability because I think, like you're saying, he's been one of those guys that's had to learn to pitch early on. And now the stuff's starting to develop, and now he can start pairing those two things together really quickly.
Yeah, he was definitely impressive on Sunday.
My final guy I'm going to talk about was our position player in the 2024 class that kind of stood out for me, and I'm going to a little bit of homerism. He's a UNC Wilmington commit, so I'm going to stay there, and my ties to Coach Hood and ties to that program. But Blake Crawford, 6'3", 190, North Lenore High School, USA Prime. Probably a player and in hindsight, looking back, we probably really should have made room future games for him because he did some special things at our top prospect games the week after. he's a little bit like the opposite of what we talked about with Nick Parham. He's ready to showcase. He does a ton of things that are just eye-popping. We have seen him run a 6.47. He ran like a 3.630. We've seen him up to 21 miles an hour in straight-ahead run speed. Exit velocity, over 100, 101.3 miles an hour. He's hit a ball almost 400 feet for us. From the outfield is 91 miles an hour. So you start talking about just pure physical tools. Check, 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 check. He has it. The frame is right. I mean, he's athletic, 6'3", 190. He's not done filling out. This is the guy that Wilmington has taken and turned into an absolute monster in the past. And I think they have a chance to do it with him again if he's able to get there over the next year. The trick for Blake now is, can he translate all of these attributes he has into being a dominant force on the field? Can he be a 6.47 runner going first to second, first to third, first to home? Can he turn that speed into being an elite defensive player? The power, we're showing 101.3 exit velocity. Can he show that in game against elite velocity? Can he spit on breaking balls? Can he force people to really attack him? And if they do attack him, can he punish them? He has shown that. He's shown it in glimpses. But in terms of where the tools are right now, the gameplay is going to continue to catch up to the tools. And that's anybody at his age that's doing some of the things he's doing athletically would be the exact same way. What are your thoughts on Blake? We've seen him a couple times. Am I overstating how big the tool base is?
No, it seems to impress a little more each time we see him. And he's just tooled out. And I hope he gets to see the best arms possible during the high school season and early in the summer. And whether he has success or fails, that'll help him tremendously heading into his draft year next year. And if he gets to school, then he'll learn quickly at Wilmington. And like you said, they've done such a good job of taking guys with pro tools and letting them get better and make some money out of college.
Well, and we talk about ways programs are built. When I was at Wilmington as a player, when we started the run, we had an influx of cash for scholarships. We went from 2 coaches to 5 coaches. So there were some things in place that made us better. But we had gone and gotten a lot of little guys that were really quick. And we could really play defense. We could really handle the bat. We put pressure on people. And then you'd stick a couple dudes in the middle that had a chance to bang. On the mound, we made a living on 5'10", 5'11", 6-foot right-handers that could spin the breaking ball. My last year there coaching was Coach Hood's first year there as an assistant. And he'd come from Campbell. And at Campbell, they had a bunch of pro body types. And every now and then, they would have a guy pop off in the second round, pop off in the 5th round. And they would have some good years. You could start seeing, kind of the signs of what he wanted to do. When he got to Wilmington as a recruiting coordinator, my first year there, I had to learn to flip kind of what we were looking for, because Coach Hood did want a little bit more of that pro body type. He still wanted speed, he still wanted power, but he wanted that pro body type too. Fast forward 10 years, his last year as an assistant, the year before he got the head coaching job, Coach Scaff's last year there as a head coach, I go in for some of the ceremonies and something that have going on. I just happened to be there early for BP, and the whole team's walking past me, coming out of the locker room and going to their first base dugout. And I'm 6'2", 6'3", and I'm looking up at these dudes walking by me. They are a physical bunch, and that's a Coach Hood trademark. And what's happened, and those guys have been really good. And it's not just while they're there, then they've had that tradition of kind of getting to the next level. Blake Crawford fits, and I think it's one of the things I think players are constantly looking for. Do I fit with the school Blake Crawford fits what Coach Hood wants to do. And so I think it's a kind of a match made in heaven in terms of, those two getting together. Still a lot of time before Blake gets there, and we'll see, because those tools continue to blow up. He may be the guy at our ProCase next year we're talking about has a chance to be a top early rounder. So.
Yeah. And I've heard you talk about it several times too, talking about Wilmington, the non-Power 5 schools. If they want to win in a regional, they better have guys with pro tools.
Yeah. Year in and year out, you look at it, and obviously your NC States and your Chapel Hills and your Oklahomas and Arkansas and Ole Misses, they're recruiting guys who are deemed to be future big leaguers. They're top 200 players in the country, top 500. These are guys that have a chance to be big leaguers. That's the thought from early on. But you look at the mid majors that make runs. Campbell's been in that mix. East Carolina. Nobody likes the term mid major. What does Shooter call them? You have the Power Five and the Power Majors. So your Power Major schools like in East Carolina, they're producing big leaguers. Those clubs that make a run, that Kent State club that went to Omaha had big leaguers. The Louisville club, before Louisville got to be Louisville and what we know now, had just made that, they had big leaguers. So if you want to be that club that makes that run in a regional, having that type of talent does matter. And I think, Blake is a guy that has a chance to be that. Long time to go, a lot of progress to make, but it's a guy that we've seen really kind of stick it to us when we didn't put him on the futures games team last year. He has. He's made it abundantly clear we made a mistake. And
good for him.
Blake, if you're listening, absolutely good for you, and I sincerely apologize, but you've turned yourself into a great player and continue doing what you're doing. So, Matt, we ran through a lot of players and we didn't get into all the players we could have. We're over an hour now, and just an unbelievable weekend. What were final thoughts on Kernersville and the talent that we saw, and now what we're going to kind of get into seeing these guys in the spring?
There was just so much talent at the Central. There was never a lull to where there was a letdown or whatever you want to call it. Watching the guy, it was talent all the way through, and then we go back and look at the numbers, and numbers were good all the way through, and I'm excited for those guys starting high school baseball, and I hope we get to see a lot of them.
Well, that's what I'm excited for. We got a ton of notes on guys. We got to see a lot of different things and notes, and now I get to go digest that stuff in games because it's not moving nearly as fast in the game, obviously. And we can really dial in on what we think we saw at the showcase and now how it applies to the field. And so, I've got, for those that were there this past weekend, both my kids are already, they were dialed up at DXT and running around and talking to the players and running on and off the field. And now it's okay. When are we going to games? When are we going to the games? Can I go to the game? We're going to go to baseball. And so now they know when I finish that season, now we get to go to games. And I think that can be the most enjoyable part of what we do too, because we're just sitting and getting to evaluate and watch really good players and really good programs across North Carolina.
Nothing beats watching games, and we're fortunate that high school baseball is good in North Carolina, and I know we enjoy that as much as anything we do.
That's very well said. And on that note, we'll close the show. I'm Brandon Hall. He's Matt Payne. This is the Prep Baseball Report of North Carolina podcast. Thank you for being with us. Hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, and come back and see us next week. Thanks, guys.